Money problems. That's the second leading cause of divorce in marriages. And so I'll tell you one thing that I've discovered is that managing money well doesn't mean that you're going to have a happy marriage. But managing money poorly is almost a guarantee that your marriage is going to experience stress. Hey, marriage is difficult enough. You don't need to add stress to it by mismanaging your money. So we're going to be talking about marriage and money today. That's the title for our show. I'm Kerry Decker, your host, and we'll be right back. My guest today is Christian Brennan, and welcome to the show, Christian. I'm glad that you can join us. Hey, tell me a little bit, first of all. You guys have been married now for exactly almost 1 year, right?
2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
And Thank you. Just had 2 years this week.
Well, that's great. Well, may you be blessed with many more years of happiness to come.
Thank you.
So, so what is it about money that caused you to decide that this is kind of what your career focus and an emphasis in helping couples to improve their marriages? What started you down this path?
Well, I kind of got on the finance track from a high school class. We took Dave Ramsey's financial piece, but for a high schooler.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed that. So I wanted to be financial planner, do all the advising and all that stuff. And I had an internship, and I quickly realized I did not like investments. So kind of switched gears, knowing that I wanted to help people budget and learn how to communicate within finances. And just like you said in your intro, divorce doesn't have to come from money problems.
Yeah.
Managing the finances doesn't have to be hard. It can just be, easier with some simple tips and good communication surrounding it.
Sure. Hey, you mentioned communication. Talk about the role of communication in working, because when you come into marriage, you probably have experienced this. I don't know for sure, but oftentimes couples are not on the same page when it comes to how to approach money, how to manage money, their thoughts and beliefs and values regarding money. And so talk a little bit about the importance of communication in marriage about money matters.
Yeah, so communication is crucial in marriage overall, but also surrounding the family finances. If you don't have communication as your foundation, you can just throw the budget out the window, because whatever is on that piece of paper, it's not going to matter if neither spouse is ever satisfied, because there's a lack of communication there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just really everything that you do inside your marriage, from adopting a puppy or going on vacation or buying a snack after work, it all has to do with finances. And so you have to have good communication and planning around those finances. I always like to say finances is a marathon for life and not a sprint. And the pace that you have for that lifelong marathon really boils down to the good communication and planning you have surrounding those financial conversations.
Yeah, well put. So, what are some tips that you could pass along to help couples to improve their communication in this area of their relationship?
Yeah, so I have actually 5 short tips, and it's really kind of all stemmed off of one idea. Just you two need to get on the same page. So kind of the first step right there to start having stronger communication in your marriage is really just identifying the who and the how of the family finances. And kind of what I mean by that is who's going to do the budget every month, who will track the expenses, who will make sure the bills are paid on time. Dave Ramsey always says that there's a nerd and a free spirit. So just kind of evaluating who really has a knack for that budgeting, and wants to do it is kind of the person that usually does it. So that's kind of the who does the finances, and both spouses can definitely do the finances together. It doesn't have to be one person, but usually one person leans towards it. So that's who does it. And then, the how is really figuring out how are you going to set up your financial life. Joint bank accounts, joint savings, your money is my money, or maybe keeping it separate. You pay water and rent out of your check, and I pay electric and, mortgage out of my rent.
So, when it comes to that topic, and you may not have a solid opinion on it, but do you believe that typically couples are better off if they manage their money, if it's all kind of put into the same pot? Or do you believe that they should keep their accounts separate?
I personally think it's easier to keep all the money together. That way you don't have to get caught up in dividing, what bills have to be paid out of your check versus, what bills have to be paid out of my check. And it just kind of makes the cash flow of it a little bit tougher. But I've seen it work both ways. And I would say, typically, most often the finances are joined. That's how we run our finances.
Yeah. I suspect it probably really doesn't matter as long as you get back to what you initially said about good communication, And so what are some of your other tips about improving communication?
Yeah, so definitely, once you get out the baseline of how you're going to run the budget every month, really, tip number 2 is set up rules. If there's specific items that you want to be done as you manage the money and the day-to-day expenses to kind of keep the peace. Some example for that might be if an item's over $50, I'm not going to buy it until I consult with my spouse. That, or, maybe when you buy a big purchase like a TV or a car or something like that, we can say, all right, we're going to sleep on it for 24 hours, no matter what, if it's over X amount. So just kind of setting up rules so that you're both on the same page and there's clear communication, especially on like the bigger purchases, making sure both spouses are involved.
So that's tip number 2. What's number 3?
Number 3 is have frequent budget meetings and checkpoints. So whoever does the budget, or if you do it together, it needs to happen at least every month if you go on a monthly cycle, or every 2 weeks, however you set up your budget. And then checkpoints should also be communicated throughout to see kind of where you're at. Make sure that you're on track for your groceries line item this month, or maybe, we're spending way too much on eating out, we need to tone it down. It's the 15th and we're out of money for eating out this month. So we want to make sure we kind of rein it in. So that's kind of where, the communication doesn't just stop at the monthly budget meeting. It really kind of carries over through the month as well. I was just going to say, and with that, when you have those budget meetings, be transparent with your spouse about the wants and the needs for the upcoming month. Some examples of that might be, in August, I have a bachelorette party coming up, and so I might need some extra gift money or extra, spending money to go out and do that whole thing. Or on the flip side of it, it's the new iPhone's coming out and I want to get the new iPhone. So I communicate that to my spouse and we see if we can make it in the budget that month. And if we can move stuff around, then great. Or maybe next month we hold off and we do it next month. So we're just kind of communicating wants that come up or needs, some extra bills or something like that.
Yeah, cool. Hey, both my wife and I were kind of budget conscious. We've had to be, at least on the minister's salary that I've received, and I'm not complaining,
Yes.
But we just, there's a place in our area where you can go and buy groceries, and I'm telling you, you can get a trunk full of groceries for like $15. Now they don't always have the stuff you want, but when they have the stuff you want, ka-ching, you score. Yeah,
for sure. I need to come shop in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So, But so what tip are we on? Are we on number 4, I believe?
That was 4. So just the last one is a short and sweet one. It's really just remembering that you two are your own financial team. So any financial related meetings you two need to go to together. Make every effort that you are at those insurance meetings together. You're at those loan or bank meetings together, especially when it comes to the investment stage, and you go to those investment retiring planning meetings with an advisor. Just making sure that just like you're both together at your little budget meetings every month, you're both at the big professional financial meetings as well.
Man, those are some great tips. I really appreciate that, Christian. That what would you say that maybe 1 or 2 things that couples should avoid when it comes to communicating about finances?
Oh, I would definitely say being like kind of closed-minded, especially if you're a family who does joint finances and you share savings account and bank accounts and stuff like that. Kind of taking each other as equal parties, regardless of who may be the breadwinner or not. Just really making sure that you don't go, well, it's my money and I'm going to buy this, even if you don't agree with it. We don't want to go down that path. So really just be open-minded and realize that you're your own little financial team. So what you do affects your spouse as well.
Yeah. Like money is like everything else in marriage, is that there's a healthy way to have conflict about it, and there are unhealthy ways to have conflict about it. And so certainly as a couple, you should never slip into that unhealthy mode of communicating about money, because your relationship is going to go a whole lot smoother. But I think that probably a whole lot of couples, they just get into money fights, and they just really don't know how to communicate well with respect to money. So, Christian, you talked a little bit about communication in marriage with respect to finances. What about goals? What role does goals play in our marriage and our finances, and what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think financial goals really kind of keep the family finances moving forward, because you have something to envision and think about. And with your regular budget meetings, you should have regular goal meetings outside of those budget meetings to really just dream and plan and secure the future, because that's what financial goals are. They're really a cushion around your budget to achieve freedom with your finances. So have those regular goal meetings, because if you're only looking at goals on January 1 when you're making all your other New Year's resolutions, you're really just not achieving your full potential throughout the whole year. And financial goals can be anything from, some beginning ones might be setting up an emergency fund or saving for a house or an investment target. Whatever you and your spouse come up with, you'll want to identify a specific goal and then some tangible action steps to achieve them every month, and kind of keep working forward with that, to put some money aside for a house or whatever you may be working towards.
Yeah, that's cool. I know that money folks often talk about having a cushion. A lot of couples, in all honesty, most of our married life is that we just had to live from paycheck to paycheck, and I suspect that probably a lot of couples do that. I'll give you my number 1 money management advice, and that's simply this: is that if you don't have it, don't spend it. It's pretty simple, but and so if you can just, now obviously sometimes emergencies come up. So, what about that?
Yeah, so when you set your financial goals, things come up, there's job changes, emergencies happen. This can derail your goals, but that's okay. That's why you have those quarterly goal meetings, the regular budget meetings, that you can adjust and pivot in a way that still gives you financial success despite your life circumstances. I can tell you right now that we're personally way behind on our 2019 goals. We had a move, we have maintenance issues, a root canal, and big car repairs are all in the last 6 months. So as you can see, my emergency fund is way low right now. So my goals have changed a little bit, but that's okay. So, just kind of with your day-to-day budgeting, it's not going to be perfect the first time you put it on a paper. So you really just kind of have to give yourself grace in that area that, budgets will adjust and financial goals will ebb and flow with stuff that comes up in the life. But we want to plan so that, if things do happen, like a root canal and then a car repair, you're prepared for those things and it doesn't like totally derail your budget and your financial life.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff. Hey, we talked a little bit about goals. Talk a little bit about strategy, and particularly the strategy to how can you keep peace, on a day-to-day basis, an everyday basis, with respect to these money matters.
Yeah, so I would say my favorite kind of strategy is the fun money account, or sometimes it's called like the blow money or personal funds. It's really just money set aside for each spouse basically every month, and that has no rules on how it's spent. So this is, talking to those couples that have those joint finances. But say, for example, my husband and I get $100 each every month. He can take his funny money and go to Walmart and buy hobby items or like a million fishing lures, whatever he wants to buy, and it's totally okay. And then, in the same aspect, I can go get my nails done that month or buy scrapbook items. So it really just kind of gives each spouse some money freedom to spend on items that their spouse wouldn't necessarily deem as needs that month or must have in the budget. And then if you're like my husband, he likes to wheel and deal and trade up and flip things. And then so he saved up his fun money, which is what we call his fun money, for several months, and he bought a motorcycle. True story.
Cool. Cool.
Obviously that's an extreme example, and had some more conversations around it, obviously, because it's a car purchase. But, I knew he had a motorcycle in the past, and he was itching for another one, so I was okay with it, and he saved for it out of his own fun money for several months. And so it made it even that much sweeter because it didn't come out of our regular finances. So it really just kind of gives you flexibility and freedom to just buy those little things that are important to maybe the wife that might not be as important to the husband. So
yeah, that's good. But good for him, I mean, and good for you too to not fuss at him about what he wants to do with his fun money, I guess.
Yeah,
that's a big problem for a lot of couples.
You have to helmet and you have to get the armor or whatever, the riding jacket and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
don't go out on the big highways.
Yeah. I think for a lot of couples where this all kind of breaks down is the lack of discipline or self-discipline, where you can talk all you want to about budgets and all of that stuff, but if you don't kind of stay within the lanes, you're going to end up in a crash.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to that, the person who does the budgeting and those checkpoints are really important to see kind of when you're on track and stuff. But if 1 month you go way over on your groceries, then the next month you can adjust. So like July, I got myself in trouble, a little slap on my own wrist. And in June, I spent way too much on groceries and busted my budget. And so in July, I was like, well, you got cash and here's your envelope. Do it. Yeah. And so, I had to, change my little budgeting habit there, though. But it really kind of works having that, kind of reset, just using cash only. But I looked at the end of the month and I was like, oh, man. But it's that ebb and flow and kind of giving yourself grace and then adjusting where needed. Yeah. That kind of helped me rein in my groceries a little bit this month as well. So,
well, good for you. Seriously, how about tools when it comes to money management? Anything that you would recommend to help couples to streamline this whole process? Because not everybody is a money nerd like you. I am pretty nerd
when it comes to like budgeting and stuff. Yeah, top of the nerd pile I am, for sure. But I use Dave Ramsey's app called Every Dollar. It's my favorite, and I know several people who use it just because it's really easy to use, and it puts, your tithing and your charity and, savings, paying yourself first, and your goals right up on top, and then everything else. I use the free version and manually track my own expenses.
Yeah.
However, you can pay a little fee, and it'll like track your expenses for you. So that's my like number one. I love it. Along the same lines, Dave Ramsey's like Financial Peace University. If you need just like a hard reset on your finances and your debt, I would highly recommend taking that class. It's available online too. And then some other apps are mint.com is a popular one. Okay. It's kind of similar to Every Dollar, but it tracks your finances for you for free. Excel works great, good old Excel. Another one is You Need a Budget. It's kind of interesting. It's a paid software for your computer, but it works on last month's income. Okay. So it's a little tricky to get set up in the first part of it, but it breaks that paycheck to paycheck cycle. So it's kind of cool. I haven't dabbled too much in that one yet, but it is pretty cool. And then finally, I would just say, like, talk to a professional. It's okay to not have all the answers for every financial situation, and it's okay if neither one of you are money gurus. So it's great to, talk to somebody who does that for a living and who thrives on budgeting or projecting retirement. Just be sure to pick the right financial professional for you, whether that be a financial coach, a counselor, an advisor, or a planner. And just as mentioned earlier, make sure that you attend those professional meetings together as a team.
Yeah, cool. Man, that's great stuff. We're almost out of time here. What advice would you give to couples with respect to money management that we haven't yet touched on?
Yeah, I would really just stress the fact that you guys are on the same team. Just the fact that, in your marriage you're on the same team, and on your finances you're on the same team. Whatever stress that you have that's causing you financial strain, it doesn't have to cause marital strain as well. As long as you remember that you two are on the same page, and this is just a valley that you're in, a low time in your finances and in your life, and you can get past it. Just kind of making sure you keep your head on straight and remember who's on your team. Yeah,
good stuff, man. Hey, thank you so much, Christian, for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. And so,
it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, there's just a lot of great resources. And by the way, is that check out those resources that Christian talked about and find something that works for you, and to kind of alleviate the stress that mismanaging money, or maybe even being uncertain about money, can bring to your relationship. And be sure to check out our other programming here on 4 Habits to Transform Your Marriage. I'm Kerry Decker. I'll see you next time.